ones that I found kind of wandering around. Check this out. See if you can get what this is trying to show you. Good. Chinese flag. See if you can take away what they want you to get from that.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I heard an oh wow. Chuckle back here from Harrison. I did hear an oh wow there, right? Class, quantify that oh wow and why you said oh wow.
14-year-olds are working.
Boom. Harrison's like there's a lot of child labor in China. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, child labor.
Mm-hmm. What percentage of the flag would you estimate is yellow?
Less than
12%? 10% over here? Or the 8, so 5, somewhere between 5 and 10, maybe 5 and 12%. Which means the rest of it is whatever's left. Vast majority. What I find amazing about this is, it's not a histogram. There's no number anywhere. But the implied number is the relative size of the color and the flag. And the powerfulness of something we kind of have an intuitive feeling about what we've heard in the news, and then slam, we get a visual that we can relate to. Totally wild, huh? Totally wild. And right there, in that image, Grand Reporter Jim has given us a beautiful, here's another one. This isn't completely correct, because the Brazilian flag actually has an extra little banner across the middle that says something in Portuguese. I think it's something like we have an awesome soccer team or something like that. If you can't read the key on this one, people who live with less than $10 a month, people who live with less than $100 a month, which I'm assuming is between 10 and 100, people who live with less than 1,000, which I'm assuming is between 100 and 1,000, and then there's a gap, people who live with more than 100,000. Please, Max.
Yeah, but how do you know these percents are like actually accurate?
You can fact check them, which I have. Okay. Now this is about 10 years old now, and maybe it's shifted a little bit.
Okay.
When it was released, it was accurate. Good question Max brought up. How do you know they're accurate? Prove to me they're accurate. I got better proof for you for the next one. But yeah, I actually fact checked them 10 years ago. They were spot on, within 3 or 4%. And that's what's amazing. They found a data set that was actually represented by the flag's percentages.
That's pretty cool.
That is wicked cool, right? Now, it was also very, very time consuming. Very, very time consuming. This is my thing. This is dated. I apologize for this one. It's dated, though. You're wondering, right? When's America coming up? Max, I test this one every year. What percentage of the flag do you think is blue? Guess.
10%.
10? 15? 20? It's 19.7%. I actually calculated that one. I went to, everything is online these days. I went online, found the dimensions for a proper United States flag. The government has a website for that. And then I did some mathematics. I figured out how big the star was, multiplied it by 50, and then subtracted it from that rectangle. 19.7%. I test that every year in 244. I have my 244s test their friends. It's pretty damn close every year to 19.7%. I'm curious over time how it's going to change as Iraq starts to fall from our common vernacular. You know, now that Iraq operations are over, according to the government, how that's going to change. Will it be larger in 10 years? Because we stopped talking about it, we don't pay attention to where it is on the map anymore? I don't know. I have no good answer for that. So, I love this though, just because of A, the fact that it's the flag, and B, that just always makes people laugh. I think it's great. Please, Max.
You know what would have been really cool is like during that time period,
Yeah.
like the first 5 years after 2001,
Uh-huh.
they actually did a chart like this or a graph or a flag about the war in Afghanistan that was actually going on because nobody knew
Right.
about there was actually
It was so crazy thinking about that.
yeah.
It was like a police action by the media coverage of it, right? It got crazy to think about. Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm not saying it's not out there. There might actually be a display out there somewhere. These are the ones I've stumbled across. This one is great, but it's too hard to look at. This is very hard to look at. Just by the colors they use. They use too many pastels, in my opinion. But see if you can figure out what's being given to you there. This is one of those, we're going to tell you something without telling you something. Yeah, you got survivors, or not survivors, good. Of what?
Oh, is this like an airplane?
Airplane crash?
Close, damn close.
Airplane crash.
Damn close. It just had a big anniversary. It's the Titanic.
Oh.
It's the results of the Titanic deaths by gender and by class. And what's cool about this is, there's 3 different levels of data here. There's the class the people were in, there's the gender of the people, and there's whether they lived or died. And this is a very clever way, I think, of describing the differences and the similarities between the classes and the genders. So let's just work together. There's no raw numbers up there, but of the 100%, which I think is about 2,000 people or something like that, of the 100% of people on the boat, that many were crew. So let's call that, what do you say, 40%-ish? First class, second class, third class. I'm going to call that 30%, maybe 35. Maybe call these 15 each.
The crew died.
So there's your, boom. Most of the crew not only died, but most of the crew was also
Male.
male. This is 1912, remember. Most of the crew was male. So here's the crew. Guys. Girls.
That's because they were down in
Say that again?
probably down in the lower
They were
levels
the
too.
lower levels.
More like-
Quite perhaps. Let's come back to that in 2 minutes, if you don't mind. I have a theory that's indicated, that's supported by this diagram. Here's the girls. Here's the ones that died. And there's the ones that lived. Now, it's a very thin sliver, but a lot more of a percentage of the girl crew members lived than died. And that goes with the whole women and children first thing from back in the day. Look at the guy crews. Here's the guy crews. Died, lived. It's like a 6-to-1 ratio. And I think the only reason so many guy crew members lived is because they were men in the lifeboats. I'm guessing. All the lifeboats of which they had too few, there was one crew member in rowing. At least one, if not one also with the little thing. What's that thing called? Ah, I don't know what that thing's called.
Radio?
Not radio, the tube. The megaphone, thank you. That word I haven't used in 23 years. First class. Look at first class. Guys and girls, what do you say?
Split.
Split almost evenly. Split almost evenly. So I'm guessing maybe married couples traveling together. I have no idea. Here's the girls. How did they fare? There's the ones that died. There's the ones that lived. Almost all of them lived. First class women. First class women, very few died. How about the guys?
Not as well.
Not as well. It's like a 2-to-1, maybe a 3-to-1 odds against you living if you're a first class guy. And I'm again assuming, and I don't know where kids fall in here. I don't know if kids are distributed by class. I have no idea. That question came up yesterday. No idea where they are. Second class. How'd second class do? First of all, how are they split? It's a little hard to see. Here's second class guys. Here's second class girls. Right. And I think a lot of this, there was a lot of clergy traveling on the Titanic, and they were almost all second class. I'm thinking that's why there's such a disparity in second class guys versus girls. But how did the second class girls do?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. There's the ones that died.
I don't think any of the men survived. I can't.
Oh wait, they're right here. So there's your second class men that lived. Here's the ones that died. Yellow's a terrible color, Kate. I agree.
That's girls. No, that's girls.
Oh, that's girls. Wait a
I
minute.
don't
Hang
see
on.
Any of
It's right here.
there. Is it? Okay. Oh yeah.
Thank you. That was girls. It's some lived. Not very many. Not very many. How about third class? How about third class?
Almost all. Of them.
Okay, lots of dudes. Not very many women. Let's check the women. How'd they do? The only class where a higher percentage of females died than lived. Right? Remember how we had to struggle to find the died in the crew and the first and second class women? Look at this. Died, lived. Like a 2-to-1, maybe a 1.5-to-1. Interesting. Guys, big chunk of guys. Second biggest chunk of guys besides the crew, most of whom died. This supports James Cameron's theory that he put forth in his movie back in the 90s, that they locked third class below deck to clear first and second class. Remember that? He caught such crap for that. But the numbers support it. They don't prove anything, but they support what he did. Why else would so many third class women die? Unless they were the last on the lifeboats. Why were they the last on the lifeboats? Maybe it was just because they were below deck. Not because they were locked below, because it took them longer to get up. Who knows? But the theory has been put forth. They were locked below deck to clear the better off passengers. I have no idea if it's right. It's 100 years old now. We'll never know the truth. I think the last Titanic survivor has now died. So we'll never know. It's all handed down oral tradition. But isn't that a cool way of looking at it? It's interesting. You get another look, and it's kind of one of those things where I looked at it for 10 minutes and I'm like, oh, I see what they want me to see. It kind of jumps out at you then. Let me show you a couple more. That's $100. Wahoo! Not life size. That's $100 bills, which is $10,000. Okay, but again, that's not life size, but that is ish life size. This is $1 million, and how big you would be next to a 6-foot tall person. So keep that visual in your mind. How big would $100 be? Roughly as big as Andrew's sweatshirt. $1 million in $100 bills. Okay, like your backpack that's with you today is $1 million. Filled with $100 bills. Okay. Other words that get thrown around a lot in the media. Billion. So this is not a billion. This is not a billion. That's $100 million. So that's 100 of Andrew's backpack. On a pallet, so we can move around with a forklift into our Fiji home that we just purchased with cash. So what would $1 billion look like? 10 of those.
Nice.
That's $1 billion. Okay? We're happy. $1 billion. So here's $1 million. Right? There's $1 million. Here's $1 billion. What's the number we keep hearing about?
Trillion.
What do you think $1 trillion looks like? Okay, you ready? Ready? I heard double, right? I hear double.
It's kind of.
It's 1,000 of those. That's the definition of an illion. Every illion is 1,000 more. That's $1 trillion. Find the dude. There he is. Please also notice the pallets are too high. That's $1 trillion. When a politician says they spent a lot of money because they spent $5.5 million on something, you vote them out of office. $5.5 million is nothing. When this is the national debt as of 2009. It's gotten significantly higher since 2009.
Goes up like 100,000 every year.
Yeah, there's a debt counter online you can log on to and you can watch it. It's incredible. I'm not saying we can't spend money as a government. We have to spend money as a government. It has to be spent. My question is how it's being spent and the frivolity of some of what's being spent.
It's just
This. Go ahead, Robert.
The problem is it's just being spent. It's not being.
No accountability.
No accountability and no investment.
No, exactly. It's like throwing the money into a hole in the ground.
Right.
Brother, I agree with you. There's a great book, if you ever have time to read a book, called Government Waste A to Z. It's kind of old now. I think it may have been updated. It's one of the reasons that it was tough for me in the election of 2008 when John McCain was running against Obama, because John McCain fought this the entire time he was a younger senator. He fought government waste almost every step of the way. And it's an interesting read to see how much money is pissed away without accountability, without investment. I want to leave you with one last. You see how these are all non-standard displays of statistics? You're getting interesting stuff in kind of a POW. This is the last one. This is the biggest POW for me. You've seen this picture before, maybe? No. Okay, it's an old Van Gogh print. It's an old Van Gogh print called Skull with Cigarette. It looks kind of crappy, doesn't it? I want you to focus on just that part. I want to start zooming in. And as often what happens is you start zooming in on a picture, and what happens? Especially if it's low resolution. It starts pixelating out, right? I want to keep zooming, though. I'm going to keep zooming. Interesting, huh? So back out to here, it's like, oh, it's kind of grainy. And the reason it's kind of grainy is, yes, the entire thing is made up of cigarette boxes. This is Van Gogh's original print. This is a print by a guy named Chris Jordan. I got his website down. You should definitely check it out. It's phenomenal. He made that picture up of 200,000 box tops of cigarettes, which is... He's got an entire series like this. He uses Barbie dolls to represent like the breast augmentations. He uses little plastic cups that the airlines throw away wastefully on the course of a year. He's got little batteries that represent waste of mercury and things like that in tuna populations. Incredible artwork, all done in that kind of a POW kind of way. I highly encourage you to check out his work. He just had an installation in Eugene last spring. I missed it by one day. I was so pissed. So, Chris Jordan. Chris Jordan is the artist. Great stuff. I have one more question for you today. How many keys do you have with you? You have no idea. Count them. I want to collect this data. Turn this off.